had no intention on filming this, but once I started creating, I knew I had to share it. This project reminded me why I fell in love with mixed media in the first place. So if you're feeling stuck or uninspired, this might be exactly what you need. Let's get into it. I recently purchased some papers and ephemera packs from Louise Hensel. Hopefully I'm saying her name right. If I'm not, Louise, please forgive me. She's here on YouTube and she's an incredible mixed media artist, a Tim Holtz maker, and she's known for her junk journals. After finishing my latest class, I decided to reward myself by printing some of her papers and just creating for me. I had no plans to turn this into a video, but I fell in love with the project and had to share what I could. Since I wasn't filming intentionally, the lighting isn't great and some parts are off screen, but I hope that you enjoy what I was able to capture. I don't typically use printables, but these were too good to pass up. I printed them on some cheap Walmart cardstock 80-pound using my Epson EcoTank in the best quality mode. Now this paper isn't as thick as mixed media paper, so it doesn't handle sprays well, but I'm going to share with you how I worked around that. After I printed out all of the papers, I spent some time fussy cutting all of the elements I might use. I always cut extra to avoid interrupting my creative process later on. I then coated everything with a clear gesso. I use the Prima brand, though there are better options out there. Adding the clear gesso is going to prep the paper for sprays and acrylic paints later. I had a pack of these shattered windows from Tim Holtz. I've had them in my stash for quite some time, and I thought it was a perfect time to use them. I wanted to highlight the girl's face, and since I didn't want it to stay clear, I applied Ranger alcohol inks in espresso, latte, and rust to give it more an antique feel. I did the same with some metal ideology pieces, some screw heads, and an optic frame. This is so they would blend in really well with the project. Off camera, I distressed all of the paper edges with my scissors just to rough them up a little bit. And then I'm going to ink up the edges with some ground espresso archival ink. Now, I really love a lot of different textures in my projects, so I added some frosted crystal to the butterflies by pressing them into Versamark ink and then covering them with that embossing powder. And then I'm going to take my heat tool and melt the embossing powder or the frosted crystal. Next, I'm going to add some distress sprays in weathered wood and iced spruce. I did this very lightly since the paper is thin. I also am going to take out some of my Finnabair liquid acrylics in burnt sienna and carmine for a rusty, colorful effect. Surprisingly, these were still good after years of not using them. Now, after all of that dried, I added some stitching on my projects because I absolutely love the look. I sewed all of the elements off camera, including the butterflies. My sewing machine is strictly for crafts, so don't send the seamstress police for me, okay? It's fine. It's gonna be fine, I promise. Now, of course, I had to add some white splatters, so I thought it would be a perfect time to try out the Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof, which a follower kindly sent to me along with this beautiful card. I am inserting a photo here so that you could see. Thank you so much. If you're watching, I truly appreciate you. Now, this paint is amazing. There have been many people that have suggested that I try it out, and I couldn't. I loved my Dina Wakley gloss spray, but I am a believer now. So goodbye, Dina Wakley gloss spray. This is my new favorite. As of now, it might change. I don't know. Who knows? You never know. But fun fact, it is made in Oceanside, California, where my husband was born. He was born on Camp Pendleton, actually, which makes it even cooler to me. So I added a little bit of water to the paint because it is very thick and it didn't bleed through at all. Now it's time to assemble everything. I used matte gel medium, which is probably too much for this paper, but it was on my desk from gluing the shattered window to the optic lens. I added some final splatters and then placed the tiny screws on the butterflies and finished with a perfect Tim Holtz sentiment. She was herself again. This quote hit home because I struggled after getting my rheumatoid arthritis diagnosis in 2021. This past year, I'm finally feeling like myself again. And this project reminded me of the kind of art I absolutely love, but don't do as often as I should. So expect more of this in the future. Now, I know this wasn't my usual step-by-step tutorial, but I hope you enjoyed it anyways. And I want to thank you all so much for watching. And don't forget to stay creative.